Welcome to Who We Are, 5 minutes of Marquette County history. When you think of hunting, you may only think of the Blaze Orange and Big Buck contests that happen every year in November in Marquette County. Or when you think about fishing, you may only think about throwing a lure into the lily pads on Buffalo Lake or taking the boat out to catch a few panfish. In truth, hunting and fishing in Marquette County have a long history that provided not only food sustenance, but economic rewards far back into our history. When explorers, then fur traders, and then settlers arrived, Indians had been living off their hunting and fishing for over 10,000 years, here in what we know today as Marquette County. Early settlers like John Muir wrote about watching the skills of the Indians, the first people, in hunting muskrats, deer, and waterfowl. Muir wrote, "We seldom saw deer, though their tracks were common. The Yankee explained that they traveled and fed mostly at night and hid in tamarack swamps and brushy places in the daytime, and how the Indians knew all about them and could find them whenever they were hungry. In winter, after the first snow, we frequently saw 3 or 4 Indians hunting deer in company, running like hounds on the fresh, exciting tracks. The escape of the deer from these noiseless, tireless hunters was said to be well nigh impossible. They were followed to the death." Settlers, too, hunted and fished for sustenance, but there were also those who came to Marquette County to hunt and fish for more than personal use. Market hunters used punt guns on Apockawa Lake, cannon-like guns that killed scores of birds at one time. Market hunters killed hundreds of waterfowl and shipped them to restaurants in Chicago or out east. Passenger pigeons were killed by the thousands and shipped in barrels to big cities. Word got out about the rich resources of Marquette County. People like E.W. Underwood promoted fishing here and even stocked some fish in local lakes. Even before railroads were built here, people traveled to Marquette County to fish and hunt. They took stagecoaches or drove their own wagons. Once the railroads opened up, Marquette County became a tourist haven. Hunting and fishing lodges opened and advertised in Chicago and Oshkosh newspapers. The famous strip boats used for fishing and waterfowl hunting on lakes like Apockawa opened new businesses, with several boat makers operating in the Montello area. These Montello men are typical of the turn-of-the-century angler, with a bowler hat and kitchen chairs in their strip boat. Waterfowl hunting was especially popular and brought people here from all over the state and even the country. With the shallow lakes like Buffalo and Apockawa and the marshes and wetlands, hunters found a waterfowl haven in Marquette County. That brought wealthy hunters too, who established private hunting clubs like Neepinock on Apockawa and the Caw Caw Club in Marquette. The Neepinock still operates as a private club, but has lost some of the charm of its beginnings. It was established in 1882 by 15 wealthy men from Chicago. The record book of the club shows that as many as 56 ducks were sometimes taken in one day by the members. They owned their own steamboat that they kept in Oshkosh. They would take the train to Oshkosh, then ride the steamer up the Fox to Apockawa. For years, Albert Stelter was caretaker, and his wife Della cooked and cleaned. Albert's son Ed then was longtime caretaker and would teach less experienced men to hunt. That's Ed on the right in the second photo as a young boy. Hunters were both local and tourists. Postcards showed the ducks and geese that could be had in Marquette County. Albert and Pauline Hartwig lived on West Montello Street at the foot of Buffalo Lake. People said you could hear them shooting geese off the Dredge Bank Road early in the morning. With waterfowl hunting came hunting dogs. Only 5 breeds of dogs recognized by the American Kennel Club were developed in the United States. One of these is the American Water Spaniel, and that was bred right here in Wisconsin. It was recognized by the United Kennel Club in 1920 and became very popular. It's Wisconsin's state dog, and it was a hit in Marquette County, especially around the areas of duck and goose hunting. It's not hard to find a photo of an American Water Spaniel in family albums in the 1920s and beyond. Keep your eye on the one in the middle. Because Albert loved his Water Spaniel so much that he had the skin tanned when it died. That quilt it is lying on was made by Pauline. It was purchased at an estate sale at the Hartwig home and will find a home in the Marquette County Historical Society. Fishing and hunting were big business. Postcards advertised what was in store for the visitor in Marquette County, and resorts flourished, especially after the advent of the automobile and improved roads. Visitors camped or rented cottages, and local folks rented boats and helped them find the fishing hotspots. Dozens of resorts grew up along lakes and rivers. Some of them are still with us today, but many closed over the years. Their buildings can still be seen, with the cabins sold off to individuals or made into larger homes. Brighton Box was just one of the many popular resorts on Buffalo Lake. Kinney's in Packwaukee was also a fishing hotspot. You might remember Kinney's as Moore's Resort. Buffalo Lake Lodge, Hickory Inn on Apocua, Pink's Paradise on Buffalo, and Big Springs, also on Buffalo, were all thriving resorts, just a few among many more. Mengi's Resort, the present Good Old Days, was started about 1923 by Henry and Minnie Mengi. The original building was what is just the bar today. When it was being built, a Native American grave was unearthed. Henry Mengi carefully saved the bones and artifacts and gave them to Indians living by Marquette. The middle section of the resort was added on. It was a house that they moved on runners. The next portion was added on and included a second floor that had rooms for guests. Downstairs was a lobby. The Mengis had 13 cottages and more than 75 boats when they ran the resort. The newspapers would report when the American lotus were in bloom, and people would come from Chicago and other cities to see them and pick them. Today, Kathy and Mike Vales own Good Old Days Resort. All around Marquette County, businesses flourished and still do because of the hunting and fishing in the area. And it's not just in summer. Ice fishing has been a hit for generations, sometimes with crowds filling every inch on the ice. This is on Montello Lake about 1940. And it's not just fishing, it's hunting. And that's not just deer, it was rabbits, pheasants, grouse, even raccoons. And you had to have a good coonhound for that. But deer hunting has been the quintessential hunting trophy, at least since they have come back after having some years of scarcity. That was Carleen Kerst's first ever deer when she was 17 years old in 1953. She'd never hunted before. Every year, hunters look forward to the big hunt, and the legacy lives on. Bow hunting, too, has a long history here in Marquette County. Hunting and fishing are woven into the history of Marquette County and are a part of each generation's stories, passed down from father and mother to sons and daughters. So whether it's fishing or hunting, waterfowl or deer, Marquette County's historical legacy of hunting and fishing lives on today. Thank you for learning about the hunting and fishing historical legacy of Marquette County.